Good evening, everybody. A very warm welcome from Bengal Rugby Union and Future Hope. First of all, very good evening to all our friends in India, and a good afternoon to everybody in Edinburgh and Scotland. This is the first time we've organised this. We're very, very proud to have with us two great Scotsmen, the first one being Zander, who is a very well-known Scottish prop. Zander Fagerson, he's 24 years old, and he played for Glasgow Warriors, and after that, recently he has joined the Scottish team as a tight head prop. And I'm very proud to tell you that he has been voted player of the players, which was this year. And so I'd like to welcome Zander Fagerson to this chat show now. Zander, welcome. We thought we would. Hello. Can you hear me, Zander? Can you hear me? That's good.
Thanks for having me, Tim. Namaste, everyone.
Namaste, yes. Now, before we start, I thought we should tell our friends a little bit about the history of Scottish and Calcutta rugby. And I think you were saying you knew quite a lot about it, but in 1870, a group of Scottish gentlemen put an advert in the Scotsman newspaper challenging an English team of 20 people to play a match against them. And that actually initiated the first game of rugby. It was the first ever international, England, Scotland, Scotland, England, and it was played in 1871 in Rayburn Park. It was a very tough fought match, very competitive, and the Scots won. And the rivalry between Scotland and England has continued ever since. Now, way on the other side of the world, in Calcutta, on Christmas Day in 1872, a group of 20 Scots, it was the first ever international, England, Scotland, Scotland, England, and it played in 1871 in Rayburn Park. It was a very tough fought match, very competitive,
Could you switch off your YouTube,
the Scots won. And the rivalry between Scotland and England ever since.
Switch off your YouTube.
Now, way on the other side of the world, in Calcutta, on Christmas Day in 1872, group of 20 Scots. It was the first. Where's my YouTube? Where do I switch? How do I get back on this again? Is that better? I'll switch it off.
Are we okay?
Is that better? Are we there? Is that better? Can you hear me?
Perfect. Carry on, please.
Well, I'm so sorry about that. We have a group of 20 Englishmen and 20 Scotsmen came together on Christmas Day in 1872 and challenged each other to a game of rugby. It was so successful that a week later, on New Year's Day at 9 o'clock in the morning, and I'm not quite sure how they managed to do it, they had another game. They formed the Calcutta Football Club in 1874, which went on very well for a year, but the weather wasn't very good. And when they closed the free bar, they had to wind it up. And so the treasurer of the Calcutta Football Club decided that they should get the money out of the bank and produced 16,000 of these beautiful Indian silver rupees. And they melted it down and they presented it to the England and Scotland teams, and thus creating the first international game. And that is really basically how the Calcutta Cup started. What I thought we would do before we get on to serious talking is to do a rapid fire interview with Zander. And I will now, if I may, Zander, ask you, within 60 seconds, we've got to get through many questions. First of all, who's your favorite coach?
That's a tough one.
Who's your favorite captain?
Dave Rennie's my favorite coach. My favorite captain would be Greg Laidlaw. Great guy, and you definitely.
Favorite food?
Favorite food would be sushi.
What is your biggest pet peeve?
Pet peeve, being rude.
Ice cream or chocolate?
Ice cream.
Instagram or Twitter?
Instagram.
What's your first reaction when you heard about this interview?
Brilliant. Looking forward to it.
Favorite rugby position?
Tight head prop.
Favorite rugby memory?
Winning the Bruin Dolphin plate when my grandfather watched.
Biggest mistake on the field that you've got most grief from?
One of my first games for my club, and I didn't listen to my fellow teammates, and I got substituted about 27 minutes in for bringing in all the scrums.
What's the best piece of advice you've received?
Work hard and work on your basic skills.
What's your favorite movie ever?
Bridesmaids.
Describe yourself as a teenager in 3 words.
Not very good looking.
3 words.
Very. 3 words. That's tough. You'll laugh. Tall, skinny, spotty. There you go.
Describe yourself as a grown man, a rugby player, a father, and a father of 2 in 3 words.
Driven. Good looking. I'm joking. And I don't know. That's a really tough one.
What's your favorite board game?
Favorite board game, Monopoly.
If not rugby, which sport do you think you would have played?
Mountain biking or golf.
What is the one thing you have from your childhood that you still remember?
Mountain biking with my father.
Window or aisle seat?
Aisle seat.
What's your favorite lyrics of all time?
Oh, another one bites the dust. I don't know.
What's your favorite film of all time?
Favorite film? Bridesmaids.
What's your favorite beverage?
I like cold beer, a skinny lager.
A bad habit you're trying to get out of?
I always pack the dishwasher wrong.
Your first reaction when you found out about this chat?
Couldn't wait to get started.
Excellent. Well, now I would like to bring in Rob. Rob has he played a lot of rugby for when he was young, but he decided, although he was a scrum half, that he wasn't going to take it up professionally. He joined Glasgow Warriors in 2003 as a performance analyst, and in 2012 he was the head performance analyst for the Scottish Rugby Football Union. But his greatest claim to fame was in 2015 when Scotland got into the quarterfinals of the World Cup. So welcome, Rob, and thank you very much as well for joining us.
Hi, Tim, and thanks for having us, and namaste as well. Thank you.
So let me start off with Zander. My son, who's in Hong Kong at the moment, noted that you were a very good mountain biker, and in 2010 you became the Scottish mountain bikes champion. Tell us about this.
So growing up in the middle of the countryside, there wasn't much to do in the local area. There was a local rugby club, and for me, all my friends lived 40 minutes away in Dundee, and so I absolutely loved it. I had 2 friends up the road, and we used to build all these bunch of tracks. So we pretty much graduated from on the BMXs to doing dirt jumps to then downhill racing, which is pretty much going from the top of a hill to the bottom as fast as possible, and with routes, there's rocks, there's drops, there's jumps. It's great fun. It's a real adrenaline rush. And luckily, the one race, it was at my local track in Dunkeld, and I managed to have a really good run, didn't fall off for once, and they managed to win. So I was super chuffed with that. But I absolutely love it, and I miss it. I was talking to my wife yesterday about it. It's just not worth the risk doing it just now, because I'd want to go faster and faster and faster. And if I fell off and hit a tree, I can't play rugby for a little bit. I get in a bit of trouble at work. So it's one of these things I'll probably go back to after rugby.
Are there any other sports that you've made your name in or you enjoy?
I was really lucky when I was a young child that my mum and dad put me into loads of different sports. We love tennis. I'm one of 5, so I always had people to play with. So we did tennis, football. Me and my brothers got quite into golf, which I play quite a lot now. And we did badminton, we did swimming, I think I mentioned, ice hockey. Kayaking, did a whole bunch, so rock climbing. So I was really lucky as a kid that I got put into a whole bunch of different things.
So you're somebody who enjoys adventure sport and extreme sport in many ways.
Definitely, yeah.
Rob, you were a scrum half at rugby. You went into the analysing of the game rather than playing it, but do you play any other sports yourself?
Not now, actually. I played a lot of cricket when I was younger. I'm same as Zander, actually. I was one of 5, so always had brothers and sisters to play sport with. So just grew up playing football, rugby, cricket, whatever we could get our hands on, really. And then work took over. So when I got involved with Glasgow Warriors, the work just got more and more. So a few things had to give. I played rugby for a little bit longer, but now it's just the gym. Unfortunately, that's it.
Yeah, well, going down onto the next question, I've got one question for Zander from Space Clinics and Luke Hamilton, I'm told, and they're asking me rather a strange question. They say, can you explain your nickname Custard?
The boys are sort of stitching me up here. I called my friend Custard because he, when he took his top off, he wasn't in very good shape at that time. And you know, when the custard, the texture and the composition is quite wobbly. When you nudged his belly, it wobbled a bit. So he actually has worked really hard and he's got in quite good shape now. But whenever you bump my belly, it still wobbles like custard. So yeah, there it is.
Rob, do you have any nicknames you'd like to tell us about?
Listen, I've had plenty of nicknames with the rugby teams. I don't think I should discuss any of them, however.
Well, you can do if you like, but
no.
maybe we'll leave that till the next question. Zander, if there was a match you would invite us to watch you play, which one would it have been? Which match are you most proud of?
Most proud of? That's a tough one. I think a sold out local at my local club at Glasgow, a sold out Scotstoun, our stadium. It's a pretty cool atmosphere, and so for me, playing Edinburgh there, one of our rival games, is pretty crazy. Or the Calcutta Cup at Murrayfield is amazing to come be a part of as a fan. And one of my favorite games of all time of me playing was in Japan at the World Cup against Japan. To see how the country embraced the World Cup and stuff, and how much when they beat Ireland, how much the craze of rugby took over the whole country. It was amazing, and I absolutely loved. I loved my time in Japan, and we didn't get the right result. And I would have loved to have won. I'd love to have won, but to be part of that game was pretty special.
Yes, the whole atmosphere. It was the first time I think there'd been a World Cup in Asia. The whole atmosphere in Asia, in Japan, was totally unique. How the people took to all the players and all the fans from around the world and made them feel so welcome. It was an extraordinary World Cup, I thought.
Yeah, definitely.
Were you there, Rob, yourself?
No, the 2000. No, I was in Japan. So there's been so many rugby games, I can't remember if it was before 2015 or after. But I was in Japan. I think it was after the 2015 World Cup. I wasn't at the last World Cup, but it's an unbelievable place. I think when Japan beat South Africa in 2015, rugby over there really started to take off, and it was an incredible place to visit.
Yes, no, it is an amazing place. Question really for two of you from Samajit, who says, what do you think the future of rugby is with the coronavirus? Will we be able to play rugby the same way that we do if the virus continues on for many, many years? We've been terribly badly hit in India, in Calcutta, not only with the coronavirus, but with a terrible cyclone. And there's been another cyclone in Mumbai just a few days ago. But what do you think the effect of coronavirus will have on the sport?
I think nobody knows. That's the scary thing, you know. I think all the facts are going to come out at a later date of how it originated and how it got around the world. But for me, I saw a few of the law changes they discussed. I don't really agree with any of them, but that's my point of view. I don't think rugby can change that much. I think it's a very contact sport, and the amount of body sweat and saliva, especially in a scrum, you pass over is quite tough to contain. And I think if you took scrums and rucks and mauls out of rugby union, it would just turn to rugby league. And even in rugby league, there's challenges. You know, they do upright tackles, and you have to hold them up, and your face-to-face contact there is quite tough as well. So I think rugby is, hopefully the virus gets contained and can be controlled, and we have a vaccine soon. But rugby, I think, could be one of the last sports to come back, sadly. But when it does come back, I can't wait.
Rugby is such a contact sport, and we notice how you lads grow bigger and bigger every season, and the amount of training and the amount of professionalism that you have to do to actually play the modern game. How have you been able to keep yourself fit? What have you done, and what has the team been able to do to, first of all, keep themselves fit, keep themselves in rugby playing condition, and also to keep the team spirit going with the social distancing that we have all over the world, and with the fact that we're not allowed out together? What have you been able to do to try and keep yourself fit?
So for me, I've got my young family, so my days have been filled very quickly with them, which makes the days fly by, but it also means you can't get that much done. But for me to keep fit, I have an exercise bike in the garage, so I'm quite lucky that I've got some equipment. But if you don't have any equipment, what I've been doing as well is I've been doing bodyweight circuits. So that's doing a set amount of push-ups, a set amount of burpees, a set amount of squats. You can work on your core, especially as a prop. Doing your core is one of the key fundamentals for building a good scrummaging position. So set-ups and planks and stuff. So there's plenty of stuff you can do without any equipment, and also going for runs. So if you're allowed out for one daily exercise, you can go for a 5K, 10K run. So I've done a few 10Ks and a few 5Ks, just keeping things ticking over. But I'm usually doing it quite late at night after putting the kids to bed. So I've been trying to keep as fit as I can.
That's very good. What advice would you give to young Indian rugby players, the children who are playing rugby? How do you keep yourself safe in the scrum? What do you think is the key advice as a prop to make sure that they stay safe and don't get themselves damaged?
The key thing for me would be just to work on your neck strength from a young age. If that's doing, it's just getting warmed up. For me, growing up, I moved to prop when I was 14 or 15, so I moved quite late on. But for me, what I felt I had really sore necks days after games for a long time. So what I would implement would be, it's just some quite easy neck holds. So just get a partner, or you do it yourself. You can hold and resist just to get all your muscles nice and warm. And the key fundamental for me is technique over power. For me, scrummaging against a prop who's got a really good technique and who's keeping me low to the ground, to try and move him, trying to do it with brute force, sometimes I won't shift it at all, and trying to manufacture a way of going forward by myself doesn't always work. But technique over brute force every time.
Which of you've propped now on many occasions for Scotland? Which has been the most difficult prop you have propped against?
That's a tough one. I think at international rugby level, any prop you play against is usually pretty good. But I'd say the French have always got a good scrum. They're usually very big men. They come to scrum, which is tough. But every different national team poses different challenges. So I'd say them all. There's not really one that stands out for me.
And a question from Gaurav in Pune. What does your normal match day look like when you prepare for an international game?
So if I'm preparing for a game, doesn't matter what game it is, I've got quite a good set routine. I try and lie in as long as I can, but with 2 young children, it's quite tough. I'm not had a game day yet with 2. I've only had a game day with 1, but I try and have a lie-in, and then I've got 2 little dogs, so I'll take them for a walk with the family. We'll have a big breakfast before that, go for a walk, come back, I'll have a big lunch, watch a bit of TV or gaming, and then I'll have a nap for about an hour and a half, sometimes if I'm lucky, and then I'll have another big feed. So lots of pasta, lots of carbohydrates on game day to make sure I'm nice and fueled, and have my nap, get up, do some stretching, help out with the children if I can before I go, and then off to the ground a few hours before kickoff, do some more stretching, listen to music, get in the zone, go over all my plays, go over who I need to look out for and what I can do to help the team and go over my key points.
You in the Scotsman a couple of years ago, there was an article about, well, it wasn't a couple of years, it must have been a year ago, was that you're a very focused man, and you are somebody who takes your game incredibly seriously, and you're pretty rough on yourself, and that you would think about the game for the rest of the week until you played your next game. And that all changed when your daughter Iona came along. Can you tell us a little bit about that, the experience of being a dad and a rugby player, and also?
Being a dad's the best job in the world. We had Iona. She's now just turned 1, and she's absolutely awesome. And we actually had a baby during coronavirus. So we had wee Hamish 5 weeks ago, and I think he's going to be a prop. You know, he's definitely he's putting the weight on already. But no, they're absolutely the best things ever happened to me, definitely. And I just feel that when I was younger, I thought I was being professional, but it's probably detrimental to my rugby. But I would overanalyze all my games, and I would always start with all the negatives before the positives. And I'd beat myself up, and I wouldn't ever praise myself for doing something well. And so I sort of felt that I would, after games, as you say, I'd dwell on it for the week, and then during the week in training, you know, I'd be always trying to compensate in training for having a bad game the week before instead of thinking about the new game. So I think for me, becoming a dad it's given me a new lease of life, you know, because I feel that when I go to work, it's sort of my rest. When I go to work, I only have to worry about myself and doing my job as the team. You know, rugby isn't an individual sport; it's a team game. So when I go to work, I just do my job and my role as best as I can. But when I come home, that's when the work starts. And I know that doesn't sound too good, but at home is where I don't want to muck up. That's where I want to be the best version of myself and be the best that I can be. But at rugby, you know, it put everything into perspective that rugby isn't the be all and end all, but it's what I love to do. So it's sort of a release for me, which made me enjoy it even more. And so I feel that now when I have a game, especially if my family come to watch, as soon as the game's over, you know, I'll dwell on it maybe that night and be a bit gutted, but the next day I'm straight into dad mode, so I don't have time to dwell on it anymore. So for me, it's brought out my best rugby for me personally, but I'm also enjoying it a lot more, and life's pretty good at the moment. So one of my little ones is teething at the moment, so we'll see how that goes. But yeah, I'm really enjoy my rugby, and being a dad is the best thing in the world.
You talk about Hamish, and you talk very lovingly and thinking about him becoming a prop. Now, how would you feel about Iona going into rugby? I mean, rugby for women is huge in the world now, and a lot of women are going into it.
No, it's awesome to see. It's definitely a sport for all shapes and sizes, and boys and girls. Definitely, if she wanted to do rugby, I'd 100% let her pursue it. I think definitely get her involved in the minis and see if she likes it, because I'm not going to force either one of them to play rugby at all. I also, as I said before, when I was younger, I did lots of sports, so I'm going to try and get them to do as many sports as possible, so when they want to do one of them as a speciality, they can pick which one they love the most, because they've done so many. So I think women's rugby, especially in Scotland, and I hear in India, is getting a lot bigger as well, which is great to hear. And there's some great athletes. I've watched a few of the games, and especially the Scotland women's team have been incredible recently, and had some great results. So it's awesome to see, and I hope it just gets bigger and better in the women's game.
Rob, a question for you from Rob Shawn in Ireland. He said, we understand performance analysts are very important in rugby. Do you need to have played the game at a high level to understand this, to do the job, or is it completely different? What skills do you need to analyze people?
I think, well, for me, I did a statistics degree, so it helped me from that side of things. But understanding rugby is obviously very key. I don't think you have to have played at a high level, but I definitely think it helps. When you see what people like Zander put themselves through, what he's putting his body through, and to have a good understanding of exactly what he's doing, so to have played the sport at a good level, what things are achievable. So I definitely think it helps, but you definitely don't have to have played at the top level. And it's the same as coaching, isn't it? There's many coaches now at the top level who haven't necessarily played at the top level. So for me, it's look, if you're passionate about it, you can work hard enough and learn enough about the game that you don't have to have played at the top level.
I agree with you. I think there was a coach for the England swimming team who was the most successful swimming coach that I think they ever had, and he couldn't swim a yard, let alone a length of the pool, and he was frightened of the water. So I would agree with that. You've branched away from Scottish rugby, and you told me very interestingly this morning that you're now looking at young people and how to analyze them. Can you tell us a little bit about your present work and what you're doing, because it seems to be very frontline stuff.
Yeah, I think I'm obviously slightly biased, but I think statistics in sport, statistics in all parts of life are really important now. We can all see how much big data is really important in things like machine learning, artificial intelligence. They're the big tickets at the moment. So what I'm doing now is, one of the projects I'm working on is testing sort of younger athletes and looking at their potential. So if you take a 15-year-old male or female and look at how fast, how strong, how fit they are, if they follow certain training programs, etc., where could they be in 5-10 years time? So it's identifying potential athletes at early stages, and using the same things, basically using machine learning and statistics. So
that's very good. And did you find that various traits lead people into different sports, or do you, for young people, do you try and keep them fairly general to start off with, but move them in the direction when they get slightly older?
Yeah, so look, I'm not an expert on how to train young athletes. I would say my expertise is more in just the analysis of the data, but I'm in total agreement with what Zander said earlier. When you're a younger male or female, do as many things as you can. Be involved in as many sports. As many times I've seen professional rugby players that are exceptional, but because they've maybe taken something different from another sport. You have some players that are exceptionally gifted trying to win ball, and some of them were exceptional skiers when they were younger, so they got a great sense of balance, and they've brought that to rugby from skiing. So but when you're younger, just be involved in as many sports as possible before you specialise.
That's very good. Zander, I'm told that you're very musical and that you're also a very good singer. Very interesting that that is not at all competitive. It's something completely different. Tell us a bit about your music and what instruments you play and what it gives you.
I'm from a very musical family. My mum and dad are both good singers, and at church, my mum still plays the piano. But my mum, I think she was up to grade 8 piano and maybe grade 5 or 6 violin. So when I was younger, she said, "Would you like to learn an instrument?" And she always used to sing in the house, and I used to enjoy my singing as well. And so I did violin when I was younger, trombone, I did drums and recorder. Anything else? I think that was it. And so yeah, I did my violin to I think grade 6 level, the fiddle, and I love playing Scottish music. But what my teacher wanted me to do more classical music. So sadly, I've forgotten a lot of that. But yeah, we're from a very musical family. Sometimes I used to do sings at carols and stuff at home at Christmas time and whatnot. But my mum really drove that, and so I'm not actually a musician anymore. My little brother, he's actually a music scholar in a school down south. He plays the cello, bassoon, and piano to a very high level, and has just done his diplomacy in music. So he got all the musical talent, and mine sort of diminished and turned into hitting and tackling things. But you know, I still do a bit of singing. But I was in the local National Youth Choir of Scotland. So they've got different segments, you know. Angus, Tayside, and then Glasgow and Edinburgh, and they all join up and do one big concert a year. And so I auditioned for that and got in. My mum said, "You should try for the National Boys Choir," which was a week-long camp at one of the boarding schools in Dunblane, QVS. And so I auditioned and got in, and had a great week. And Christopher Bell, who runs it all, he's fantastic. And we're getting young people in Scotland into music and singing especially. And so yeah, I was in the National Boys Choir for a bit. So sort of when I've grown up, I've sort of lost my voice a little bit, as my little brother tells me, because he's the superstar. But I still do. I like to sing along, but not on live YouTube. So I'm not going to give you anything this now.
No, we won't ask you that. Do you if you win a good match for Scotland, do you join in with the lads when they have a sing song afterwards?
Yeah, we always have a sing song after the game. I'm not usually the one that starts it, but if you hit a certain milestone or an accolade, you know, your first try or your first cap, you always have to sing. So I've got a few in the bank for when I get called upon.
Who is the biggest extrovert in the squad? Who would start the singing off?
Oh, there's a few guys that think they're great singers. I was actually in the boys' choir at school with a few of the rugby lads, because I was lucky enough to play with a few of the guys who are now in the national team at school. So he was quite good. George Warren's a very good singer. Jamie Ritchie's a good singer as well in the national squad. And for my club, I've got a few of the Islanders. You know, Ratu Takevi, the winger. He's a very good singer. We had a great guy called Brian Alanisi, who now plays over in France. A big 6'8", 145 kilo second row, and he was an incredible singer. He loved a bit of country, so he would usually be the one that would get called upon a lot of peer pressure and get up and do a few songs and get the boys going. So yeah,
that's very good. I'm told also that you're a very good cook. People tell me that you enjoy your own food and you cook it well.
I'm not very good.
Tell us what you enjoy cooking.
Ask my wife. I'm not a very good cook. When I cook, I cook for fuel. So instead of cooking one chicken breast, I'll cook 4, and I'll eat 3, and I'll keep 1 for a snack for later. Compared to she likes to cook 2 very well seasoned, nice sauce, and then I don't mind it, but I usually cook more in bulk. But I'm quite big on my barbecue, so I've got a big charcoal barbecue, and I've got a smoker as well. So I've done a few briskets, a few ribs. I love my steak, so I have a T-bone steak maybe once or twice a month, a big one from the butchers. But yeah, just as much meat as I can eat. I could never be vegan, sadly.
That's I understand that. What you wear a triple X, quadruple X shirt? I mean, what is your chest size?
I have no idea. Big, I know that, but I've actually lost a few kilos during lockdown just from not doing as much weights and eating as much as normal because I don't need to. So 52 rings a bell. I don't know.
So that makes you, was it 4XL?
Yeah,
Is,
4XL. Hopefully 3 when I get back. Looking a bit trimmer, but we'll see what happens.
oh, well, that's very good. And Rob, what about yourself? What are your hobbies? What do you enjoy doing?
At the moment, work really. I've got lots of different projects on the go. So apart from the gym and working, and I've got 3 boys myself, and so spending time with the boys, not much outside of that. But you know, after spending 15 years working in rugby, I had the opportunity to move on and try a few different things. So I'm really enjoying that at the moment.
And Rob, if you were working with Rugby India, what would you advise them to do in a huge country like India, where there is a lot of enthusiasm for rugby, but there are not very many facilities at the moment? How would you advise them to start to look at players that could become part of the national team? What would you set up?
Well, I mean, what I set up in Scotland was a central hub where teams could upload and share their videos, basically. So it gave us the central system as well an opportunity to look at players all around Scotland, but also teams to improve as well. The part of analysis is looking at your opposition and seeing how they're playing. It forces you to get better as well. So by sharing videos online, you can watch who you're going to play against, design new plays and things, maybe take some plays from the opposition so you get better, your players get better. But it gives, like I said, the central hub, the national selectors, etc., opportunity to look at players from all across the country as well. So I would definitely look at something like that.
So at Glasgow Warriors, when you were there, did you video every single game at every level? Was that available for people to watch?
Well, when I first started, we had 1 camera, and we tagged maybe 20 different variables on players, and then by the time I finished up, we're looking at 5-6 different camera angles, hundreds and hundreds of different variables. So it changed massively over the time I was there. The Warriors is one single team. There's lots of feeder teams into that. So from sort of 1, 2, 3 leagues below that, they're all capturing the footage and sending it into that central hub.
That's very good. And you obviously store it all. How does it become available to anybody? Can anybody get into the central hub and watch a video of a team playing or people playing?
So sometimes people can be a bit precious about who watches their teams playing and who's trying to steal their moves and things. So we create permissions around exactly who can see what videos. But if you're part of a league, you can see everyone else's video if you're part of that league, and they can see yours. So we did it on a league by league basis, basically.
Thank you. Zander, I was talking to a friend in Scotland this morning, trying to find out more information about both of you, and he told me that you have a great sense of responsibility, and I would really like to ask your thoughts on this. I think he saw you in Perth working with school children up there about 6 months ago, and he said it's wonderful to see international players who stay close to their roots and who give back. What advice would you give to young players in India with regard to responsibilities that if they play the game, whether it's on the pitch, off the pitch, or wherever?
I think rugby can teach you a lot of great values, teamwork, leadership, you know, and hard work always beats talent. That for me is what I wish I knew a bit long. I was always told it when I was younger, but you know, I sort of didn't really believe it. But for me, I think working hard and whatever you do, if that's your schoolwork or rugby, you know, when I was younger, if I didn't do my homework, I wasn't allowed to go out and golf. Or if I didn't do well in school, mum would make me do more revision before I was allowed to go do rugby training. So I sort of feel that hard work always beats talent. So when talent doesn't work hard, so it doesn't matter if you have a gift, if you don't practice it and work hard at it, it's just going to diminish and you won't get to your full potential. So for me, when I go back to Perth and where I was born and where I come from, rugby isn't that big. You know, it's a really big farming community. The clubs have got a good group of young people coming through the mini section and stuff, but it's still, even though it's in the up the north of Scotland and it's in the farming community, football is still the key sport played in all schools. And what I would love to see in Scotland especially is that that rugby is the key sport played across all schools, not just private schools. I hate when it's seen as a private school sport. If you look at some of the Scotland team just now, you know, there's a lot of phenomenal players who come through public school, but they played most of the rugby at their local clubs. And I would love for that to change in time to be that they play rugby at school and at club at high level. So for me, rugby in India, for me, you don't need that much equipment to make rugby fun. And so going back, I'm involved in a charity called the Strathmere Community Trust, which is rugby for all ages and for everyone. They have a phenomenal buy-in from the elderly community in Angus, where they do walking rugby. And so to go down and see a session of walking rugby where 60s, 65-year-olds, 70-year-olds are having fun with their friends, getting out, getting fresh air, getting exercise, it's awesome to see. But there's also a phenomenal buy-in from local community because they also run an autism-friendly rugby session. And to see the parents and the carers of the children can come and relax for half an hour and see that their kids are having a great time in a safe and secure environment and they're learning stuff as well was just awesome. So I really, really love getting out into the community and helping out where I can. But for Rugby India, going back to your question, I feel that just the key fundamental skills, so that's the tackling and the ball handling, you know, I think I see some under 12, under 10 children, their passing is better than some professionals I've seen. And so I keep harping on that if you can pass off both hands, you can tackle off both shoulders, and you've got the basic fitness to last the whole game. That's a great starting point to developing a young rugby player. So in India, I would just try and keep it as fun as possible. There's loads of different resources and stuff online that you can get games and ideas and tips from, but make it as fun as possible, get as much kids as possible involved at a young age, and then that'll transpire into the adult rugby and the senior under 18 stuff, which I think from what I'm hearing, I never knew before being invited onto this call that rugby was so big in India, which is amazing to hear. And I really hope it keeps going because it's a great sport and I feel it can really teach a lot of life values throughout.
Yeah, well, rugby has been in India longer than anywhere else in the world apart from England and Scotland, I think. It is very much growing now. We have the problem of the fact that the country is so huge. So if you're traveling from Kolkata to Mumbai or from Kashmir down to Kerala, and you get on a train, it'll take you between 3 or 4 days to get there. And so anybody who's an amateur, it's quite difficult to go. But we're seeing a large growth of the sport, both in for girls and for boys. What is so good about it is not only people from better backgrounds, children from all different backgrounds, whether they're rich or poor, or whether they're from the countryside or whether from the towns, are all beginning to play rugby. And I think the great thing is that it's that sense of camaraderie and friendship. What I love about whether you watch a rugby match in Kolkata, Mumbai, or Edinburgh, or London, none of the crowds need to be separated. You're all very competitive, but you're very good to each other, which is a very strong thing, I think, about the game. A group of friends of mine have been researching into the Calcutta Cup, and they have found that there are another, I think, 6 Calcutta Cups. There's a Calcutta Cup, which was obviously given to the Scotland-England game. There's a Calcutta Cup that we play for in Calcutta amongst our teams. And so I should say, I very proudly won the Calcutta Cup, not the one that you have, Zander, but a Calcutta Cup. If you're a polo player, you play for the Calcutta Cup. And if you're a golfer, you can also play for the Calcutta Cup in Blackheath. Rob, are you interested in any of those other sports apart from rugby? Polo or golf or anything like that?
Sorry, was that for me there?
Yeah, Rob, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm always thinking about things from a statistical point of view. So from a stats point of view, yes. Rugby's quite a difficult game to analyse because it's so open. But if you look at things like golf, starting to take off already, the analysis in golf. So yeah, definitely. I mean, I'm keen to move into other sports at some point as well, from a work sense. Probably not from a playing sense. Unfortunately, I'm not like Zander. I'm not gifted on 50 different sports, but.
Rob, I would love to see you on a horse playing polo. It'd be good fun.
Pony. Zander, how tall are you?
I'm 6'2".
Zander's 6'2". I'm 5'5", I think, if I'm lucky.
That poor horse, if I go on it though, that's the problem.
You need a big horse. That'll be good. Well, I think we should finish where we started on the Calcutta Cup. Zander, what do you think will happen next year in your year planner? Does the Calcutta Cup have a significant place? Is it something that is above everything else, wanting to win against England in the Calcutta Cup? What do you feel will happen next year?
I wouldn't say it's above winning the Six Nations. You're always in every game you play for your country, you want to win. So that doesn't matter who you play against. But I definitely think there is a bit of added zest when you play England. I've been lucky enough to play in 2 of those games, and it's very confrontational, very physical, and afterwards you're either gutted or you're absolutely elated. So I wouldn't say you don't put it in your calendars, that's the specific game, but as a player, you definitely in the back of your head think, I would love to play that game, definitely. So hopefully next year we're away, so depending on what happens with the Six Nations and stuff, so we will wait and hear, but if the opportunity comes and I'm available, I would love to play and definitely get the win down in England would be incredible. I didn't play when they last played there and they got the draw, but to play and win would be incredible.
Well, this is the first time we've done this with the Bengal Rugby Union Future Hope. It's been a great experiment. You've both been incredibly generous with your time. Thank you so much for being on this little program that we've organised. I hope it'll be the first of many more to come. Rob, many thanks to you. Zander, many thanks to you. And I'd like to extend a very warm invitation for you to visit us, for both of you to visit us in Calcutta once we're all allowed to travel, hopefully in the near future. Thank you both very much indeed.
Awesome. Thanks again for having us.
Thank you very much. Namaste. Thank you.
Cheers.